Well, howdy there! Pokemon Champions, one of the video games releasing this year that we got to see a bit of during the recent Pokemon Presents, but it turns out there is a whole lot of information that was just not posted internationally. Over on the Japanese website and social media, there are a slew of brand new screenshots, as well as some brand new characters with official 2D art. Like, what? How did I not know about this? Normally, I really wouldn't talk about this game all that much on the main channel because even though I'm gonna try it out and I'll probably have some fun, it being primarily focused on competitive Pokemon and potentially not really having a story or single player mode, it just didn't really seem like the right fit to talk about. However, these brand new characters have piqued my interest, so let's go in and take a look. I will say that there has been some form of an official English announcement, that mostly being a little blurb posted on the main Pokemon page that includes the name of these characters, but only has a screenshot of one of them. Though that is at least how we know the English names of these characters, so let's go in and start things off. Well, okay, first of all, I'll say that we know about the protagonist, and we've had these images of them released for a while now, but I think they look alright, pretty generically sporty in the default look, but you will actually be able to customize your character, as we see in some screenshots here and there showcasing some of the different options, and then also some of the other screenshots just show a character that has been customized, and honestly I think they look pretty good, so I'm very interested to explore some of the different options. But anyway, on to the original named characters. I don't really think that they're going to play a role in any sort of story or anything. Honestly, I think that they're just going to be the friendly faces you see on the menus of different sections of the arena, but like I said, this is something I do want to discuss. So first of all, we have Tatora, or Tatora, something along those lines. She works at the reception desk of the gym that the protagonist is going to be a part of, and she runs various administration tasks. She's given some extra little characterization saying that she admires the protagonist and often strikes out conversations with him. And her design is pretty nice. I like the overall outfit. So nice bright colors, a blue and a pink that kind of reminds me a little bit of maybe red and blue, and then also the black and white feels a bit like black and white in that sense. You know, just kind of a general reference to Pokemon as a whole and maybe a play on the receptionist that we see in other Pokemon games. That actually was something that I talked about recently, how a lot of the nurses, or at least the characters you would assume are called nurses, are now called receptionists. So I'm assuming that is basically her role, sort of like a main menu. The extra sleeves are really funny, featuring a design of Tandemaus, but oh boy, she's got a big enough forehead to play tic-tac-toe on. Overall really nice. I think she works as the general receptionist character, and from the screenshot it looks like her partner Pokemon is a Klefki. Also from the screenshot, interesting little note, it looks like we have a brand new Rotom form, and we also see this in yet another screenshot on the ear of the protagonist, so it seems like in lore it's some sort of communicator device that I would assume is pretty helpful during the actual battle. Then we have Kid, and ooh boy, this is a character that the internet is really loving, and dang, I can see why. Overall, I really do like the design. It is really fun, as Kid is supposed to be the one who raises Pokemon at Scout Ranch, the means of which you're able to partner up with Pokemon in this game. She is described as cheerful and friendly in nature, but not very knowledgeable about battling. She has a strong interest in taking care of Pokemon, and that definitely makes sense as a rancher. But oh my gosh, there's a lot going on here. I really do love the red of the hat, the pitchfork, and the belt, but overall everything else is pretty normal. I think it's really funny how Pokemon always does cut up jean shorts in this style, but you'll notice that she actually has a tattoo. I suppose it's sorta meant to look like a branding mark, which actually is even more surprising. But the point is, yeah, this is one of the first times we've seen a Pokemon character with a tattoo. There's probably some other time, and I will definitely try to look this up, but for it to just be so out there, I'm sure they'll probably say something like, "Ooh, this isn't a tattoo, it's just decoration." But I think it really does work, and I'm not necessarily saying that any of these characters are gonna have a bunch of lore, but at least in my headcanon, I think that she works as being from Unova, because that tattoo on her arm actually depicts Bouffalon, and so does her belt buckle. She even has a brush at her side, which again relates to Bouffalon, a Pokemon very much known for its hair. So why then in the screenshot is she shown at the ranch with a bunch of Tauros? I don't know. Like I said, I really like the look of this character. I think she's really fun, and the potential Unova connection is really cool. Also, whoever designed her went really crazy with everything. They even gave her tan lines. Next up, we have Cody, who looks like the average Gen 1er. Now, it turns out he's actually a Gen 2er. Notice the Ampharos jacket, which, by the way, I really do hope that they sell this jacket in real life at some point. The 181 on the side is really cool, reference to Ampharos's Pokedex number. But you know, I even skipped his lore. Apparently, he used to be the gym owner, but handed it over to the protagonist. Now he takes on the role of a coordinator, helping to train the protagonist team. Maybe being the means of like how you would train up your Pokemon. We do see a bunch of medicines maybe behind him, but having an older character like this, I think is definitely meant to show the legacy of Pokemon. Next up, we have Caraway, who I'm also going to to introduce alongside Kajima, because these two are actually a father-daughter pair. But for the moment, when talking about Caraway, she is the owner of the battle arena where the protagonists take part in Pokemon battles. She hopes to see the strongest trainers and places an emphasis on discovering and nurturing new trainers. I can't necessarily find out what sort of role she's meant to play mechanically, though again, maybe that's all information that we'll find out a lot easier once they just release this information, but I really do love her look. It is a very flashy design, which when you take into consideration the fact that her father Kajima is dressed like a wrestler, that sort of makes sense because yeah, I can definitely see her as a wrestler as well, very much having an eye for entertainment. She has some really big hair though, but it helps to sort of break out the design by adding some pink on the inside of it, again sort of tying into that flashy nature, but overall her hair really does relate to her partner Pokemon, which seems to be Hatterene, you know, a hair-based Pokemon because the entire body is hair. She even styled her headband, I guess you would call that, after Hatterene's hand, having two of them on each side, and the Pikachu sunglasses are really fun as well. What I do think is really cool is that we see her holding a luxury ball, which based on the cinematic trailer, the entire building is shaped like a luxury ball, and I think that sort of ties into the fact that at least in lore, this place is meant for entertainment. Yeah, sure the battles are real, but the overall presentation of what's going on here is meant for entertainment, and I think that is a fun idea for incorporating this into Pokemon. And then on to our father Kajima, yeah, he is just dressed like a masked wrestler, and he is actually the mayor of Frontier City, basically being the boss of everything going on here. He wears a pretty cool purple suit with his coat draped over his shoulders. Sort of gives me the feeling of like how in wrestling you'll kind of see a similar character, the guy who's meant to be the boss or the president of everything, but he is actually a wrestler himself and takes part in the battles, and perfect that his partner Pokemon is Incineroar. A really fun idea, and I think it does tie together everything pretty well for at least the lore of this setting, which while the main game is obviously going to be used for competitive Pokemon battling, there's at least a lot of visual flair going on here. So now everything is all clicking for me with how they presented the recent Pokemon Championships. Everything set in a huge arena with a lot of detail. They're continuing to support VGC as an esport that has spectator value. So overall, those are some of my thoughts on the brand new characters that we're seeing in this game. Like I said, it seems like there isn't going to be a story or a single player campaign. Mostly these characters are there to give a little bit of personality, but I do appreciate that they went through the trouble of drawing some art for them. Like I said, I'm definitely going to try out Pokemon Champions when it releases, but for now I'm glad we got a little extra treat when it comes to brand new characters. Now if only they could reveal some more details about the actual functions of the game. So let me know which character we talked about today is your favorite, and also remember to leave a like and subscribe, leave a comment, that one's important too, and hype up the video as well because we're going all in on that entertainment. Anyway, I should get moving on to training my Pokemon and making sure they're ready for the big battles. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, including the Great Gators, Super Normal Paranatural, XX Creepy Raw XX, JBOTW23, Paolo Stolben, IRL Lugosi, Miranda Ray, Star Shooter, Alex Switch Shiny Hunts, Koi13, Cemetery Hill, Cheez-It62, Gator Kid 509, TF, Mathaclog947, Taijirai, Phantom, and Quago. If you would like to support, see your name here, get access to the brand new emotes for comments and live streams, as well as early videos, our Discord server, and member exclusive videos, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky as well for more memes. Anyway, this is Gatorex, and I will catch you all later.
Answer the call to battle in Poké Tournament Deluxe. Switch and play. Nintendo Switch. Game rated everyone 10 and up.